right, I'm going to show you how to get started from start to finish rigging up. And I'm going to go over getting your leader set up onto your fly line. I'm going to go over flies and tying them on, and I'm going to go over indicator attachment. So get your leader. I'm using a 9-foot 5X tapered leader. Whoops, let's bring the end of my line. Now most fly line nowadays have a loop at the end, and most leaders have a loop at the end. So I'm just going to take my fly line and go right through the loop of the leader, and I'm going to find the end of my leader and bring it through the loop of the fly line, and I'm just going to drag it right on through here. Now see, this is going to be a little bit of a mess, which is fine. Let's start that over. I'm going to bring fly line through the leader loop, and then I'm going to take the end of the leader, the tapered end, and put it right through the loop of the fly line. And then I'm just going to slowly lead it through all the way through, and then you have to squeeze a little knot of the loop on there and just pull it. That's a handshake. So then come back to the tail end of my leader, and I'm going to attach some extra 4.5X onto there, about 2 feet, maybe 3. I go a little extra because of the knots take up some space. Then I'm going to lay the leader over top of my tippet. You wet it, and then you just make a little loop. This is called a surgeon's knot. You make a loop, and then you take both the tag end and the tippet through that loop, and you do it twice. If you're fishing larger species, I would do it 3 times. Wet this, and then just cinch that down. Then you're left with 2 tags. You want to cut those tags. There you go, I saved my tags. Now you're left with your leader here and your tippet down here. Now, because it just rained, I'm going to use a squirmy wormy. Let's see what kind of squirmy wormy. I'm going to use a pink one so it looks waterlogged. Put that there. And then I'm going to use a copper john as well. And because this river or creek is full of caddis, I'm going to use a green copper john. So my first fly will be this copper john. I want this to drift through the water column a little bit higher up. So I'm going to take that, put it through the loop. I'm going to do what's called a cinch knot. And pull this down. Now I'm going to leave probably about a foot of tag line, because I'm going to use that for my squirmy wormy. So now I just take, this is the tag. I'm just going to make a cinch knot. And that's just taking this and wrapping it around 10 times. So now that it's wrapped 10 times, you take the end and go up the loop up that loop, and just pull it tight. You can wet it. All right, so it's cinched down there. And then I have this long piece of tippet left over, and that is what's going to get my squirmy wormy. Now there's multiple ways of doing this. You can tie it onto the loop of the hook as a trailer, but just for sake of making things very easy, and I'll do a loop knot here as well, 10 times. All right, now that's wrapped around 10 times. I go up and cinch it down. And I'll cut this little piece of tag line off. Keep your tag lines. Now I have my copper john and my squirmy wormy. Now these are light flies, so I want to get them down quickly near the strike zone. So I'm going to use a split shot. And I'm going to put my split shot about, oh, I don't know, 6 inches above my first fly. So what will happen with that, and a split shot is just a little tiny piece of weight that has a little cut in it, and you put the line down in there. If I can do this, there we go. And then I just bite it shut. Then I take my needle nose and I just do a little squeeze just to make sure it's on there securely. And then I get an indicator, and I prefer airlock indicators. I use a 1/2 inch airlock indicator, and they're very easy. So then I'm going to go probably about 1.5 feet above my first fly. I just take this, I unscrew the top of my indicator. There's a little slit in there. I slide it through, and then I put the little washer back on and I tighten it. I'll make it pretty tight there. All right, and now I have my leader with my indicator 2 feet below that. I have my first fly, and then I have my squirmy wormy. Let's see if I can cast out of here and get something. Just kind of let that drift right on down. They're light flies, so I have to give them time to sink down into the strike zone. Even though I have that split shot on there, I still need time. Get a little bit further up in there. That way, by the time it gets to here, my flies will be down towards the bottom into that strike zone. And when you're fishing a creek like this, you want to start close to you and slowly work after, you know, 1 or 2 casts, just slowly work further and further out into the middle. But you always want to start close to you just to not miss an opportunity. Keeping an eye on my fly line out of my peripheral vision, at the same time keeping a very close eye on my indicator, because any weird movement on my indicator, I immediately assume it's a trout. Just mending my line, getting it sort of out of the way, cleaning up some of the drag. It keeps drifting towards me here, so I really want to launch it on the other side of that drift. There we go. Kind of let that drift down so it stays over on that side. Letting that drift all the way through. Gonna let it sort of do a swing through and let it swing through the tail end of this. Tail out. And then I'll do what's called a water load cast. So my indicator is back there. My fly line is on there, so the water is going to load my fly line. There we go. I'm really surprised there are no trout in here. Like, extremely, extremely surprised. So maybe if I go a little bit closer towards me, right up here. I haven't casted close to me further up yet. Again, I'm keeping an eye on my indicator, but peripheral vision, I'm looking at my fly line. So if it starts dragging or drifting a little too quick, I need to make a little bit of an adjustment with an amend or some sort. Get it way over there on that other side. See if there's anyone over there. Still keeping an eye on my fly line. If I need to mend it, I will. Now, I need to see if maybe the problem is my flies aren't getting down quick enough into the strike zone. So because the water is drifting relatively faster than it usually is, my flies are getting dragged up into the water surface. So I'm just going to lift my fly up real quick, kind of see how quickly it drifts down. Yeah, it's drifting it's sinking not as fast as I would want it to, but let's do a couple more drifts in here and just kind of see if I get it a little bit higher. I think the strike zone is here, so if I cast it high enough, by the time I get down, my flies will be down in. There we go. All right. That's exactly what I needed to do. Just make sure my flies were a little bit higher up into that. All right, took the squirmy wormy. Went for it, probably missed it. Okay, sometimes I'll keep them upside down, kind of just to control them. Get that fly out. There we go. Pretty fish.